Bonsoir à tous, bienvenue.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the official TV channel here at the festival for a new rendezvous. It's Opinions. Two international journalists will come and see us every day to our studio to talk about films that are screened during the day. I am delighted to welcome Luca Celada from Film en Italie, a correspondent in Italy for your publication. And also we have Andrew Warren with us for Australia. You are a journalist and chairman of Australian Film. Thank you very much for being here. Your nationalities indicate the films we're going to talk about today: Mad Max by George Miller and, of course, Tale of Tales by Matteo Garrone. Which one is in competition, the other's not in competition. Let's start with Mad Max, why don't we? Mad Max Fury Road. This is Mad Max Festival. Well, we've all been dazzled by it. We all have the impression of being rolled over by a juggernaut. Is this... For me, what's your feeling? For me, it was a wonderful experience. I loved the film. I think that most people who are going to see it will love it also. If you like action, if you like fast cars, motorbikes, if you like plenty of action, let's just go over that legend, the Mad Max. The first film was released in '79. This is some 36 years down the line now. This is the fourth in the series, and I think it's been the biggest success from Australia. If you're talking about success, yes, and profit also, and for Australia, it is part of our cultural identity now. In my youth, in Australia, we grew up with Mad Max. Mel Gibson was our hero. He was totally unknown when he first starred in the first Mad Max. Yes, that film established him as an actor. And as a hard, tough man, the Australian tough guy. Lucas, are you a fan? Were you a fan of Mad Max? Oh, yes, I too grew up with Mad Max. Not only in Australia, it was all over the world we were growing up with Mad Max. And George Miller said when we met him in Los Angeles that this festival, and France in particular, played a big role in unveiling Mad Max and understanding Mad Max, which is surprising because for us it's so distant from European culture. He thinks, or he says, that the French were among the first to embrace it as the new Western. He loves the Cannes Film Festival and he loves the French people. But before you go into details about what you thought of this film, what it brings to us here in Cannes and film in general, let's take a look at the trailer of the film which is being released today in France. Lucas, what's your general opinion of the film? How did you feel about it in general before we go into detail? Well, it explodes on that big screen up there. It really reminds me of Burning Men. It's as if the burning cars in that film were in the Paris-Dakar race. And George Miller also said to us that the story is almost irrelevant. He wanted to get back to the origins of film. And for him, the origins of film is action. He talked about Max Sennett and as being the real roots of film. Andrew, I think you'll agree with me that this film is totally modern. George Miller is 70 years old. He's not a young man anymore. But this is a really almost punk film. You're right there. I think that's the wonderful thing about it. He filmed it in the old-fashioned style. All of the stunts are true. All of the explosions, it's all real. These aren't computer-generated images. And I think the actors were doing some of their stunts. Well, they did some of them, yeah. There were some impressive stunts done by the actors themselves. Yeah, there are motorbikes in the air. As Luca has said, George Miller loves the Australian Western style because in Australia we love cars, motorbikes. We like being out in the outback with these big machines. He wanted to use the country in all the legends. Is George Miller a national treasure? I think he is. He's one of the greats. And this film, as you've already said, was one of those films back in the day by the big Australian film directors such as Peter Weir, Bruce Beresford, Fred Skipsey, Phil Noyce. All of those big names created films at the same time. George Miller was one of them. He's a genius. He still makes films today. He's still going. Luca, we were talking about Mel Gibson. How do you find Tom Hardy in Mel Gibson's shoes? Of course, he's playing alongside Charlize Theron, so there's just wonderful, nice women in there as well. Yes, Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy are excellent. The story itself is really basic. So you need some strong characters that you can hang on to. And those two fulfill those roles. Tom Hardy, yes, I knew he'd pull it off. I wasn't quite sure about Charlize, but she really has done the job. She's really incarnating the character she's playing, and that really is the key to the success of the film. And the language is unique. Mad Max has his own language. Well, we know it isn't. I'm not sure if Tom Hardy speaks like Mad Max. When the first film was released in the States, it was in English. Nevertheless, they had to have subtitles because the Australian accent was so strong that the Americans didn't understand the dialogue. How about the music? Anything to say about that? It's absolutely weird. The sight is wonderful. The sound is amazing. Yes, you hear these cars, these motorbikes. And that's why I had to have two men to talk about this film, two mechanics. I would. I'd like to go to Burning Madness and meet the guys. Yes, we need two men to talk about it. We need two men also to talk about the character. When we spoke to Tom Hardy, he had his stuntman with him because he understood that he was a partner with his stuntman. The two of them acted out the role. One man isn't enough to play that role. What was the most exciting action scene for you? Well, the major... Which one? There were so many action scenes. It's the set piece, the big focal point with the pendulum or the fire. How did he control all of that fire? This isn't green screen we're looking at. Yes, there are bodies that are spinning through the air, up in the air for about 4 or 5 seconds. It's amazing. They said that there were no injuries. I can't be sure about that myself. Well, thank you very much. As we can understand, Mad Max was a huge success. It's being released in France today, so rush out and see the film. It is a journey. It will knock your socks off. It's really crackers, and it really takes you to another place. And that's what we love when we go to the movies. And we also travelled with the film by Matteo Garrone. We're going to talk about that one now. It's a film in competition. It's called Tale of Tales. He is such an eclectic filmmaker. Yes, he really is eclectic. That is the word. In Italy, he is considered to be one of the most talented filmmakers that we have, and I agree with that. I know that this festival has considered him as a great filmmaker since the beginning. Yes, he had prizes for Gomorrah and Reality from Cannes. Yet he's changed our country. If he were to live in the same place as Francesco Rosi, with the social realism of the 70s, with Gomorrah, and then by carrying on with that tradition, he's gone elsewhere now with this latest film. He takes us on a big journey to countries which we don't know. Let's take a look at a trailer of this incredible journey. So, if I'm not mistaken, this film is an adaptation of folk tales which date back to the 17th century. Yes, that's right. Written by a very original writer from Naples. Giambattista Basile is his name. That's right. And he wrote a book, a collection of fables, which was called Pentamerone. And that was taken up later by the Grimm brothers and Charles Perrault. And a lot of these fairy stories which we know today were written for the very first time by Basile. And that's where Garrone went to find his inspiration for this very original film. And unexpected. Did you like it? I liked it, but not the same way I liked Mad Max. You have to think about it. It's very original, and it's not totally separate from Italian tradition. Let's not forget that we had Dante, we had Ariosto, and we have Pinocchio too. So there's a tradition of surrealistic tales, popular tales, and that's where Garrone is taking us with this film, Tale of Tales. Salma Hayek, Vincent Cassel act in this film. Is that a good idea? Well, yes, I'm quite fond of seeing Salma Hayek up on the screen. Talking about women actresses then, and coming back to George Miller, I think the Mad Max actress was a good choice, as is Salma Hayek. I think it's quite daring of Matteo Garrone to take this particular path. Why do you think he did this? Well, he talked about several reasons. He talked about Pinocchio and Game of Thrones. He's also talked about having tried to embrace a different type of language, which we don't often see in Italy or here in Europe. This is a language which is often left to American films or English language films. And he wanted to do it in a different way, not by remaking Game of Thrones, perhaps a bit more along the lines of Fellini's Casanova. And it's also an interesting operation because there's a huge cast. It's a film in English, so the goal is obviously to attract a big market and to sell it throughout Europe and Italy, and to take Italian cinema out to the rest of the world. And I think it's been a surprise for a lot of Italians, but it was a pleasant surprise prize to Italians. What kind of prize do you think this film could win here in Cannes? Well, a lot of people have been talking about Toby Jones, and I think he is wonderful in the film. He is an absolutely wonderful actor. He can adapt to any character. He's got such an unusual look. Vincent Cassel also is very interesting in the film. We'll see. It's early days yet. And do you read a renunciation of the cult of beauty here? Do you think that's what one of the messages is? Yes, Matteo Garrone is talking about archetypes. But he brings everything back to the modern day, of course. He finds that he talks about modern themes. I agree that that's what he's doing. He wants to give references that we can identify with. I've got a question. What other films are you looking forward to here in Cannes? What are you definitely going to see? What are you really looking forward to seeing? What are you already fantasizing about? Being Australian, I really want to watch Carol by Todd Haynes with Kate Blanchett, amongst others. And I like a lot of his films. That's what interests me most in competition. It's the beginning of the competition. We've got 10 days. There's so many films for us to see. Lobster could be a good film. I'm keen to see that tomorrow. We've got interviews all lined up, so it's very interesting for us. And how about you, Luco? Yeah, I agree about Lobster. Apart that, well, the Italians have got a couple of horses running in this race. Yes, you've got Paolo Sorrentino and Nanni Moretti as well. I also want to see the Denis Villeneuve film, and Love by Gaspard Noé. You've got quite a long list of films that you want. I love Gaspard Noé. I liked Into the Void. I thought that was a great film, really original. And we know that Cannes needs films like this that can shock us a little bit. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming into the studio. Come back and see us whenever you want to talk about films. Enjoy the festival. And the official TV channel will be back with you in a short while for surprises, the highlights, and we'll be back together for new opinions.